Traditionally, design practice in North America or in the West has kind of trained designers to operate kind of autocratically. But global markets are changing. They're becoming much more flexible. The way people work is different, and I'm very relieved to say that the design guru is dead. The designer is no longer at the center of projects, or they're not the orchestra leader anymore. And I like to think that women like this are the new gurus of design, or should be. We can also look at how we think. We can look at new models of how work can get produced. We can look at new ways to harness skills, production, manufacturing in other places like the developing world. They don't look like traditional business models. They're not just about the bottom line. Bottom line is now shifted, I think. So we can change how we think about design practice. We can think about where we work. It's a factory in Guyana, South America. Factories dedicated to using renewable vine and cane from the rainforest, from the Amazon rainforest, as an alternative to wooden furniture. And if somewhere as poor as Guyana can do it, then surely we can do it too. So we can think about that. We can think about what we make. All right. It doesn't have to be office furniture. It doesn't have to be the next iPod cover. It doesn't even have to be the next iPad. We can make different things. We can make those choices. Liana chair made in the factory we just looked at. North-South Project, a new model of viable design and craft collaborations in the developing world, tackling issues of marginalization of craft producers. So often the developing world is used as a branch plant for corporations like IKEA, producing things at very low cost. And they're there because they can produce things at very low cost. But what about those people with those skills? Perhaps they should have a shot at the global marketplace too. New Caribbean Design, Love, Freedom, Flow. These are all projects that I've worked on with groups, manufacturers, communities, indigenous communities in the developing world, and then brought to market. All right. Haida Made is a project with First Nations communities on the west coast of Canada. Also how we think, how we operate, how we produce design. So rather than autocratically thinking that first world design knowledge is the way forward, it's a much more bottom-up collaborative process. So looking at what people do, what the cultural meaning of what they do, not appropriating the cultural meaning, keeping the IP in place for groups, all right? Bringing all of those things together in a kind of collaborative, dialogue-driven means of developing product. And then finally, partnering these with retailers, manufacturers, et cetera, in the developed world or in the affluent world. So those are all things that we can start to resituate in ourselves about how we think about our practice, about what we do. But we can also look at what other people are doing and how this fits into a bigger context. Right? Like art collectives. Superflex in Denmark works in a very fluid way, works in partnership-based collaborative groups with engineers, scientists, designers, other artists to produce new kinds of work. This is a project they did in Cambodia. Off the Grid Village in Cambodia. They worked with a scientist, an engineer, and an industrial designer to produce a way of processing waste products into energy. That Off the Grid Village then became On the Grid. And then they took all of this information, this documentation, and they exhibited it in museums and art galleries. It's a very interesting mix, a very interesting cross-disciplinary mix. Or we can look at retailers, progressive retailers like Artechnica in the U.S. Artechnica, well known for its programs of placing high-profile designers with groups of craftspeople, artisans in the developing world to produce new kinds of things. Okay? Based in LA, very interesting retailer. We can look at manufacturers, high-end manufacturers like Moroso in Italy, who operates in a different way. These are benches based on vernacular furniture types in India called charpoys, which are everywhere in India, designed by Doche Levian, which is a London-based design firm. These are sort of, the frame of them are made in Italy at Moroso factory, and the mattresses or the upholstery on top is handmade by a rural women's textile cooperative in India. So this way of combining mass production and the handmade to produce a new, very high-end product. We can look at foundations like the Skoll Foundation for Social Entrepreneurship. We can look at governments, the World Bank, like the Canadian government, the U.S. government, who all invests in product development projects around the world. We can look at economic development agencies. All right, so we kind of built a little bit of a context for resituating design practice. We've looked at how we might change ourselves, how the market context around us is changing, what other people are doing. And then we can also start to try to identify new frontiers for design practice. All over the world, or as I like to think of it, the real futuristic world we actually live in, where everything is made by hand. 95% of the world, things are made by hand. All right? Artisans keep making things that are essential to culture, history, and most importantly, livelihood. Because even though the bottom line is shift, it's still a bottom line. It's still about making money. All right? The artisan, these baskets, for instance, are made by Evelyn Harris in the Blue Mountains of Jamaica, who dedicates herself to preserving maroon craft. The maroon were the first peoples of Jamaica, the first black peoples of Jamaica, tricked into coming by the Spanish from Ghana, who immediately upon arrival ran off into the Blue Mountains and spent the next 2 centuries rebelling against the Spanish and then the British. And lived lived in a very remote existence. They had a whole craft tradition, and Evelyn Harris is 8th generation descendant of Nanny of the Maroons, female leader of the Maroons. 8th generation direct descendant. So she is kind of like Jamaican royalty. She has dedicated her life entirely to keeping alive Maroon craft traditions. Incredible woman, lives alone in Jamaica. Beautiful work. I think of these as the kind of anti-product. So, in the artisan sector is really the only creative industry where developing countries are the leaders in the global marketplace. There's over $23.2 billion traded in art and craft annually from the developing world. That's a lot of money. The artisan sector is also the second largest employment after agriculture in the developing world. So you have people making things all the time, everywhere. Right? Often their skills are kind of being harnessed, again, in low-cost labor. This is a huge problem, the exploitation of labor in the developing world. And I think design should really take that on. It should be a huge issue, environmentalism and the exploitation of labor. Right? In India, 6 million people work in the artisan sector. 6 million in India alone. Okay, so here we are. We've maybe identified a new frontier for design practice. We've looked at the context. We've looked at how we might rethink what we do. And I know you're saying, okay, so how does all of this work, like really? Like all this is well and good, but how does it actually work? Like what do you do, Patty? You travel around and look for interesting crafts? Like, no. No, I don't. So I'm going to give you a little view into how it works, because I think it is a really interesting role for designers. And it's also a very partnership-based role in the full sense of that word. Design practice has always been about collaboration. There's no designer, I believe, living who would deny that. Design does not happen without collaboration, period. Whether a designer takes credit for it or not, it's always a team of people, various roles supporting that. If you work for a manufacturer, it takes the entire team to produce a single product. So this is just a little shift sideways. It's a little shift away from, traditionally the way an industrial designer would work, with different stakeholders. So, Brand Aid project. That's a good example. I'm going to walk you through a current project, to give you an idea of how these kind of projects are structured. Okay, the projects I work on are highly structured projects, sort of medium-sized product development projects, usually in a single location, and usually in the developing world. They are generated at first by aid monies from governments. So Canada, the US, the European Union, all of whom have programs and targets. Their programs are usually around, they're outcome-based, so they like, in a 2-year period, to see some kind of an outcome, which usually means sales. And they're area-based, so governments, aid agencies and governments, like the Canadian International Development Agency, would target a certain spot in the world, or various spots. Right now, Canada's targeting the Caribbean, most specifically Haiti, Afghanistan, and Eastern Europe. These are the targets of where Canada wants to send its aid dollars, and they do that through services, all right? And they move those aid dollars through agencies that manage the projects for them. So the Trade Facilitation Office of Canada is a good example. Brand Aid Project is another example, working right now with money from CEDA in Haiti, okay? I'm hired to manage these projects, to develop them, structure them, manage them, okay? So it's a kind of interesting side role for a designer, and I won't argue that I kind of have a unique set of skills as a designer. I'm a good designer, really good designer, but I also have this other kind of skill set around being able to visualize and envision how all of these things can come together, how all these stakeholders, artisan groups, can come together into a single collection. And then I can also leverage my contacts in international markets, like in the US and in Europe, to push those things out into the market. So I have a kind of unique skill set. I'm not going to disagree, but it's a unique skill set built over time and built over, with a lot of tribulation, let me say. So this is a project funded by the Canadian government, developed by Brand Aid, and managed by me, directed and managed by me. I'm the design lead on this project, and it's based in Haiti, okay? Everyone with me so far? Brand Aid is I should add, is a very progressive company, firm, that's focused on bringing the assets of Madison Avenue, the advertising assets, like advertising firms, big advertising firms who can, sell you a cup of Tim Hortons coffee even if you don't want it. Sell you anything, really. They're dedicated to bringing those kind of assets and skills to artisan groups in the developing world. Okay? Very progressive. So we're working in Haiti. We're working with 4 communities, community-based artisan groups, and 5 SMEs, small, medium enterprise, bricks and mortar, factories, production, and a little bit more on that later. Now, Haiti is an incredibly culturally rich country. Culturally and artistically rich. It's an incredible place. But it's also the beloved media whipping boy for about the last, I don't know how long. And they have truly endured both metaphorical and real slings and arrows for centuries. They're the first country to take their independence by rebellion, the first country anywhere to take their independence by rebellion. Right? And they remain the only Caribbean country to take their independence by rebellion. Haitians ousted Napoleon and France from Haiti. A lot of experience in the Caribbean, and all countries in the Caribbean still live in a kind of post-colonial sort of lag, inertia. They've all had to deal with it. Haiti demanded it. They ousted Napoleon. They still talk about it. You go to Haiti, they still talk about it. It's like it happened yesterday. We ousted Napoleon. Yeah. So it's a fascinating kind of cultural piece to this. And they're still paying for it. They had to pay France for their independence. And they only finished paying France in the 1980s. Okay? Unbelievable. They have endured trade embargoes first by France and then by the U.S. twice. Okay? They have been pilloried and stereotyped by Hollywood, voodoo. I say no more. And they have very recently barely survived a devastating earthquake, as you all, I'm sure, know. It's a very fascinating, rewarding, but very difficult place to work. And through all of this, they have maintained this incredibly rich artistic culture. Okay? The quality of art in Haiti, the quality of craft in Haiti is imaginative. It's amazing work. It's really something to behold, and it's everywhere. The creative capital in Haiti is everywhere you go. So all of this to really point out that a design project like this really, has a lot of different stakeholders. So we've got our governments, we've got our agencies, we've got our design lead, we've got all our artisan groups, we've got our companies. Those are all stakeholders in the project, all right? Sort of like a manufacturer, little sideways step. But a project like this really has to be about more than developing product, okay? Obviously, it has to be about more than that. It has to be a design program from beginning research to product development to marketing and branding to getting it out into the market and then following up on sales. So it's got to be a whole program of activity. And each and every stakeholder has to be invested and engaged in that process, all right? Again, I'm pointing out to you that the design guru is dead. There's no such thing anymore as a designer dropping in a picture of or a drawing and having something made. That it no longer exists. That design program also has to have a design platform, all right? And the design platform in this case is voodoo. It's design inspired by the struggle and the tribulation of the world's oldest religion, voodoo, as a metaphor for Haitian struggle and Haitian artistic ability. Right? Long history of this connection, art and craft connected to voodoo, to the things that people produce in Haiti. Art is integrally connected with voodoo. Voodoo artists transform spaces to become, to open the doors of imagination. And our idea really is a multi-level idea, but ours is to, first of all, reimagine and transform that temple art, those objects, those artifacts, those everyday things, into new kinds of products that kind of hold an essential nugget of what Haiti is, and redefine that to audiences. All right, which means consumers, buyers, general public, right? But it's also to sort of redefine Haiti. Voodoo is this very scary thing to people, but it's not. It's really a cultural thing. It's extremely important in Haiti, politically, culturally, and economically. So to have that be a design platform is a very important aspect of this project. And I think it also aptly describes this cross-disciplinary approach that I always like to work with, because really Voodoo Nouveau is design, is kind of the convergence of design with ethnography, product, and artifact. Right? So, then you say to me, okay, that's all well and good, Patty, that's great. But how does this really happen? So I'm going to take you on I'm going to show you a little bit of our process, a little bit of how this actually happens on the ground, and how you can take artifacts and cultural elements, people, and really try to develop something that has meaning for them, for you, and for the market as well. So this is a shop, a small shop in a town called Croix des Bouquets, which is a community entirely dedicated to producing hand-forged metalwork, very beautiful metalwork. But this little shop is actually a studio in which voodoo flags or banners are produced. And they're produced via sequin work and bead work. All right? These are things that voodoo priests use in voodoo rituals. All right? And to draw my point home a little bit further, Jean-Baptiste, who owns that little shop, is also the voodoo priest for the community. So part of his shop is a temple, and there's no tour of a factory or a shop in Haiti that is not then completed by a visit to the temple, right? Which is a very complex ritual place. Incredible place. They're incredible places, truly. I can't believe to tell you. I can't even begin to tell you. Anyway, and these are the kind of artifacts that are produced every day in Haiti for use by people, by priests, by voodoo practitioners. And they're beautiful. I mean, they're quite incredible objects, including this kind of an object, which is the figure of the spirits, good and bad, that either bedevil people or help people. And they're made by voodoo artists using found objects, another important component of life in Haiti, the genius with which they use found objects. Right? This is a baby doll. No longer looks like a baby doll. Now, another part of this project, which really infused my imagination, was that, and which has become a kind of basis, one of the first bases of work for this project, is a market in Port-au-Prince. Main markets, 2 buildings, very big market. Does the same things that all markets do. They have goods there, food. Patients go there, buy all the things they need, clothes, et cetera, bowls, pots, spices, meat, live meat, chickens. But 1/3 of this market is a voodoo market, where they sell temple art like this. This is new temple art by an artist named Edmond Eddy. They sell voodoo dolls. They sell potions. They sell live turtles for sacrifice. They sell objects that will house spirits. 1/3, it's like if you went down to St. Lawrence Market and 1/3 of it was a voodoo market. I've never seen anything like it in the world. So this becomes a real source of inspiration. This gives you a view into the market, and it all looks like this. These are voodoo objects for sale. Right? There's the little voodoo dolls there right in the center. Always male and female, always. And so how do these things start transforming or migrating into other kinds of products that contain this kind of essential nugget? These are govi. They're used to house your spirit and then finally your ashes when you die. So when you are born, your spirit goes into a govi. It's wrapped up. It's put in the temple. And when you die, it's broken open and your spirit goes free. Right? Those kind of things can become these kind of things, directly related, but also directly related, but also appropriate for contemporary markets. Or these big wooden bowls with the kind of roughed out inside, which are everywhere, can become something like this, which is actually not that far a jump, but quite a remarkable object. Candles, voodoo candles used in ceremonies, little smoking, sooty things, can become candlesticks. Gourds, which are used for rattles, for calling up the spirits, can be transformed into, these great objects by an artist named Jean-Paul Sylvain in Haiti, which are brilliant because of not only their form, but their use of tobacco, which once was a major export crop in Haiti, but no longer is. and using a very old traditional technique called paper mache in Haiti. Whole village, Jacmel, is dedicated. You may remember Jacmel was almost destroyed by the earthquake. Jacmel is the center of paper mache production in Haiti. Or something like this, which goes back to the kind of base they use in paper mache. And again, this topic of recycling, the genius they have of recycling. So these are the cement bags, most recently brought in, of course, to rebuild Haiti, now find a new life in a new kind of object. Or this collection of things, the maracas, the govi, the tin plates used for offerings, voodoo dolls, can become a larger bowl or a paper mache bowl. It's woven objects, very big in all of the developing world because it's easily available material, can become hats. And just a little view into a few further things. And again, this genius of recycling. This is a shot taken in the market. These are cast aluminum pots. They're everywhere. They're made in Site du Soleil, which is the biggest slum in North America, in the Northern Hemisphere. It's in Port-au-Prince, made in sand casting facilities. I use the term facilities loosely, but all made from recycled tin cans, which are everywhere in Haiti. So this is not pure aluminum. This is all made from melted down tins and tin cans, beer cans, pop cans, remade into incredible cast aluminum. Again, this absolute genius. They don't labor too much with the idea that, I have a plastic bottle, I want to make a light with it. They just make things that they actually use every single day. Like these made from old tin cans, and these are everywhere. All right. Okay, all well and good still. That nice inspiration, Patty. Very good, very good. But how does it really work? I want to give you a little view into some of the companies that we're working with. Just to show a starting point, what the companies do and where it might go. It's Vernacular Furniture, found on a porch in Haiti. I took this shot myself. It's really beautiful, and but you can't really reproduce that because our furniture markets are so competitive, and the furniture is so well made and of such high quality, and in some ways very, very, you can't just reproduce this and sell it. There's no way. So, and there's some furniture in the market. This is the kind of furniture that people buy every day in Haiti. These little chairs here, the little woven chairs, those are voodoo priest chairs. Those are the chairs they sit on. They're not child's chairs. The priests actually sit on those chairs. So, but what we notice about that furniture, and we're working with a furniture manufacturer in Haiti, an SME, bricks and mortar, been manufacturing furniture, exporting for a while, is the kind of immediate connection. So we design, or I design really, to take advantage of their particular skills. And most often, they're kind of very rudimentary. They have very rudimentary equipment, not like you're walking into Moroso, or even Nienkamper. It's, they've got very rudimentary equipment. So what I take from those original vernacular chairs is the immediacy of how these things are connected and built and how the members come together. And if you notice in these two pieces, every piece overlays the next. There's nothing fancy about this. There's no wacky transitions. It's ergonomically correct, however, and it has a kind of presence. It looks like a piece of furniture that you might find in these markets, which in fact it is. Or textiles. Textiles are very important in many ways in Haiti. And it starts on the street. This is Pepe. Most Haitians buy their clothes. Secondhand trade in clothes is very big in Haiti. They're all wearing what we used to wear. They're all wearing our cast off, and they're buying it. Okay, so this is Pepe. It's on the street everywhere. Used clothing sales, used shoe sales. Okay, everywhere you go, it's laid out on the streets, in the ruins. One aspect of textiles. Here we have dresses made from burlap. Very, very, I have one of these, and I'm telling you, these are like real garments. They're cut, they're pattern cut, stitched, there's pressed down seams inside them. They're incredible, and they're made from burlap. It's like, but these are for voodoo. Right? So textiles. We have a lot of small rural cooperatives, a lot of micro-enterprise. So this is a convent which houses a group that we're working with called Peace Quilts, a group of women, single women who have no other employment, who have been trained to make quilts, trained how to quilt textiles. We're also working with a manufacturer called Indepco, an amazing and interesting company who has a bricks and mortar facility, as we like to call them in the economic development world. The textile company who has networked 800 micro-enterprises across Haiti to produce their goods. So they bring in fabrics, they pattern cut it, they ship it out all over Haiti to people working in their homes, which is very important in a country like Haiti because people can't afford to travel, they can't afford to come to work, they often live in very difficult circumstances or no circumstances. 600,000 people live in tents, and I mean tents, the kind we camp in. They look exactly like the kind we camp in. 600,000 in Port-au-Prince live in tents. No water, no sewage, no electricity, no nothing. Very hard for them to come to work or even to find work. I mean, living is a nightmare. So Indepco brilliantly takes all of the stuff out. Indepco also has the biggest contract for uniforms and school uniforms in Haiti. It supplies most of the schools in Haiti with school uniforms. So this marriage of a rural women's cooperative who can do a lot of hand stitching, including embroidery and quilting, and Indepco, and what kind of fabric is available in Haiti? Shirting fabric, because that's what Indepco uses to make uniforms. So suddenly all of these things come together in a new kind of product. So these are going to be a series of throws and quilts made from shirting fabric and handmade by this small rural women's cooperative. And then incorporating into that some of the sequin work, some of the embroidery work I showed you earlier, from Jean-Baptiste, which is also an important theme in Haiti, and an investigation with them of some kinds of new motifs that might define Haiti. Okay, so that's how, the project is not thought of ahead of time. The project expands and develops on the ground. On the ground, as you meet people, as you see what they do, as new ideas occur. So again, just driving home this idea, it's not just about product development, it's about building programs of development that can be sustainable long term. There's some of Jean-Baptiste's work. Amazing. Okay, so I hope I've given you a little view into how I think about resituating design practice. I think that these kind of things are, most important. They really drive me. As Baruch mentioned, this presentation I've just showed you is actually going to be in a kind of more 3D or real form or living form at the Interior Design Show next week in the exhibition center called Offsite Onsite, where we're really trying to demonstrate this. It's not going to be a product-driven exhibition. It's really going to be an examination of a project in process, project I've just described to you. So there's going to be artifacts, there's going to be products from the iron market, and there's going to be some new products as well, but shown in a way that people can interact with. And finally, I'd really like to wrap it up by saying that, these experiences or this sort of idea of a different kind of design practice has really been an incredibly rewarding experience for me, and really it's profoundly changed the way I think about design and the role of the designer. And although, us sitting at our computers and our desks, and trust me, I do that a lot, sending off PDFs to goodness knows where, trying to get our things made, it's a modern paradigm, it's the way things are, but I think it's kind of a hollow one. And I really encourage all of you, all designers, to really rethink and at very least go and meet the people who make your products. So I think it's a very important aspect of what we do. Thank you very much.